I'm Jennifer Harmon, and I am an EVP for growth and the success of our clients at St. John. And today I have with me Chris Heydt, and he is a huge leader and early adopter of AI and has really built a lot of really cool programs that he uses with some of his current clients, but also for the future of the agency. And I'm really excited to have you today. And
Thanks for having me, Jen.
Particularly, and you mentioned a few minutes ago when we were just sort of briefing that the world has changed so much that what we all learned in college, for me, what was years ago, not as many for you, but we have lots of people that came out 2 and 3 years ago. And yet AI was not in use necessarily, not to a huge degree, maybe some in research.
Right.
So I think it's great that you've kind of are undertaking this unofficially so far and leading us in ways to use AI. And I'd love to hear some of your things that you're working on, your programs, and the things that you're going to make easier for the agency.
Definitely. Well, thank you for having me. I will say I am old enough to know what it was like back in the day. And before we were fully digital, dealing with tapes and things like that at old agency jobs. But right now is a really exciting time for marketers and agency folks. We haven't seen anything really like this since the industry went to digital.
Right. Right.
That was like a seismic shift in how we did business. We went from proofs and tapes and shipping them to media to instantaneous trafficking of assets to our media partners, faster paced turnaround and approvals from clients. So the speed has just continued to increase, and the last few years with the rise of generative AI and now the application of it more holistically in business has made a really exciting opportunity for people to take on this new challenge of figuring out how it's going to change what we do.
I agree. And I would say that almost everybody in the agency will run something they've written through AI, even, the ones that are not adopting it as thoroughly as you are. And I think that is great. And, you could always get a better idea how to do something. I think it still has to be your personality, but you can build the tone in. You can create how you speak so that they write back something that ends the way you speak it. So I'd love for you to talk a little bit about personalization in it, and how do you get prompts set up that really are built around what you're trying to do, as well as how you speak, and as well as how the industry talks about itself. Sure. I know that for, probably the last 2 years, and I have a son that just graduated from college, and he was being offered all kinds of AI opportunities to go in and confirm or reestablish some of the wording and the things that were coming out around marketing terms, around how young people talk. So, I know it's moved light years in just a year or two.
Mm-hmm.
But talk a little bit about how we at St. John are using it now, and what you see in the future, and why we shouldn't be afraid of it, and how we should adopt it.
Sure. Yeah. I think the first thing to even think about is that this is completely cultural shift in our daily lives outside of work.
Right.
My wife uses AI to figure out what we're going to eat for dinner.
Right.
Those are becoming very normalized uses of AI, with people adopting ChatGPT as their search engine,
right.
and the rise of a generative search optimization. But from an agency standpoint, carrying through from those changes in how we as individuals are using them to how an agency can adopt them has really gone through a huge shift over the last 8 to 12 months. And I've been doing a lot of work with keeping my ear to the ground, staying engaged with the broader early adopter community, right. and figuring out how do we actually implement the use of AI in a space where we have it's a creative remit, and frankly there's a lot of hesitation on whether or not it's right to use AI to create something creative. So the way that we're looking at AI right now is first going from just simple prompting
Right.
to operationalization. So we started out, let's just start using the tools. Let's figure out exactly how we can apply them. We were having it create draft headlines and then starting to use those to avoid an empty piece of paper. That was kind of the first iteration of how we thought about AI, is like, it's going to help us avoid that empty piece of paper that always slows down kickstarting the creative process. But now the promise of AI and how these tools have advanced requires us to look at them a lot more closely as a partner in how we do our jobs.
Right.
It is not a solution, but a part of our new workflow.
Right.
So for me, as an account director, I spend a lot of time doing the strategy and planning for our clients. From our economic development clients, where I'm working on a website for them right now, to other clients where we're working on awareness campaigns.
Right.
And each of those obviously has very different needs. But some of the things that we've found to be kind of foundationally valuable right off the bat is the ability to learn more about the audience, learn more about the topics or the issues that face them, and be able to apply those learnings to the creative process. I'm talking more about, like, you don't have to do a focus group every 6 months. I can do a focus group in 30 minutes.
Right.
We're using tools like synthetic focus groups, where we can quickly stand up a group of synthetic personas, upwards of as many as you want, to run actual focus groups and learn what they think about a certain topic, and provide us with opportunities and insights that we can pull into our creative process with our art directors and copywriters to figure out, how do you really apply this?
Right.
That's just the tip of the iceberg,
Well,
being
if
able
you-
to apply those things.
If you know your user and you can build what you are 100% sure is your user, and then it can go and find all of that and build that data up and then speak it in the language. There are so many shortcuts that you can take to all of the surveys and research that I know you're working on. I think it also, when you think about restaurants, we've talked before about how simple it would be in AI to use existing photography, rework it for a new menu innovation without having to go shoot it. And you would, of course, shoot it at the end when you get down to the final version and everybody's excited and you've got 3 new products you're going to roll out. But at that beginning, not having to go and sit in a central testing system, making food for people to look at and having them grade it takes days, and it's very expensive. And this will shorten all of that and would have as realistic results and results that can really be tapped into as anything would, and save so much money and time. So it allows you to do your menu research as well as your focus groups, as well as surveys. You talked about that a little bit earlier. I'd love to hear a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I think the opportunity for us isn't about shortcuts necessarily, but spending less time on the tasks that are effort heavy,
Right.
and provide us the inputs for our work, and instead on the actual work itself and applying what the AI platforms are allowing us to understand and better discover. The ability to create things is changing on a daily basis.
Right.
What you described about developing social assets and menu items without having to go and do a shoot, I'm seeing plenty of businesses that are using those images from AI and not even doing a shoot.
Right. Right.
Now, all of that requires a human eye and taste. Taste is what I think the new agency positioning and new agency value is, because AI is, and this is what a lot of my colleagues are scared of, is like, AI is going to replace ad agencies. And I really don't see it that way. I see it more as it's going to replace mediocre work. And the normal kind of phone it in type of work isn't going to fly anymore with sophisticated clients.
Right.
It can work fine for businesses that are just worried about volume, or they don't necessarily have a strong desire to have very, very finite takes on what things look like, and are willing to take risks and test things and try things. Those kinds of companies are going to lean into AI a lot more than some of the larger brands and more conservative brands that are also concerned with trust and authenticity.
Right.
So the use and the application of AI is going to depend on the client.
Sure.
What's going to change, and what we're trying to do at St. John, is find ways to operationalize and centralize the way that we apply these solutions so that it becomes muscle memory.
Right.
I was just talking to somebody the other day about the importance of doing a customer journey and understanding how a customer navigates the decision process of signing up for a service. Now, in the past, we'd have to do a lot of research to uncover that. I was able to put together a journey in about 45 minutes.
Right.
But that took time. We're building these tools that allow us to then learn from every iteration of its output and the feedback we give it, because our experience and our knowledge is still very critical to this process. It does not mean that we are obsolete. It means actually that we're more important.
I was going to say, the smarter you are about what you know and including all of that in your query, then
Right.
you're going to come back with something that's far more usable and immediately available to take advantage of. As I think maybe early users, and I would say most of our agencies pretty adept at least the basics of AI,
Mhm.
but creating programs that then can be run for our clients based on all of the unique knowledge that we already have about their guest, their user, their client. I think that's gonna make us be very successful, because there's no human that could have that much time to build all of the verticals and all of the data and squeeze it all in. We could do it, and we have done it,
Right.
but it sometimes would take weeks. There is something to it. Almost doesn't make sense to do it any other way today. And your work and your outcome and your results are going to be very well defined, very specific. Easier maybe than when you're working with human beings talking about a product they like or don't
Mhm.
like, you know. So I will be interested, because I thought when we were talking the other day about the journey, we used to map those journeys, and I don't know, it took us sometimes 1 or 2, 3 weeks to
Mhm.
gather all the data, sometimes to even survey some of the users, and to build that, to really understand where they were going along the way and what were their points of decision, and when are they at intent and when they're actually purchasing.
Right.
And talk a little bit about that journey map that you've built and is now available for any one of us to use for the benefit of our client, because that is such a really, to me, amazing tool that you could do that. And a lot of times too, some of the things we did with the journey mapping, it wasn't clear. We were guessing a little bit along the way to fill in some of the steps. And I think that your process probably has eliminated some of that guesswork.
Yeah, I think and this is a really exciting project that I've been working on. I'm really excited about it. And it's just one of the tools that we're building to help us be more informed about what our clients need to communicate.
Right.
But the tool is essentially it's built on Claude, and it takes inputs that I put in, including first party data that the client provides me, because we need to be sure that this is founded in client insight, customer insight, and not just social content
Right.
or searching, crawling the web.
Right.
That's the thing that I think has not quite taken hold with a lot of people that are thinking, well, how am I going to apply this to my daily job? Because there's questions, how accurate is this information? Plenty of people have talked about AI hallucinations and the potential of seeing things that aren't really accurate.
Right.
But that's where we come in, is making sure that we are inputting the information necessary to inform it, ensuring that we are reviewing what the output is and flagging things that need more investigation. That's where that taste and experience comes into play,
Right.
that agency and agency professionals have that a tool does not have.
Right.
And that's where that foundational work is so important to create these tools, because the ability to set it up right in the first place is going to pay off huge dividends down the road, in terms of the quality and the confidence in what is outputted from these tools. We're actually doing things like benchmarking outputs against real kind of traditional approaches. So focus groups, for example.
Right.
We do focus groups for a number of our clients on a regular basis, every quarter, 2 quarters. And we're running those synthetic focus groups and then looking at them compared to the regular focus group. We're not just diving in with blinders on,
Right.
but really looking at, like, is that tool actually telling us what we think is actually happening out in the market? That gives us a higher percentage confidence that anytime we use that tool in the future, it's going to be likely more accurate than if we had just kind of taken our finger, put in the wind, and kind of
Right.
guesstimated, or trusted the tool without actually applying logic and the foundational planning that goes into creating these tools. I mean, they look cool, but there's a lot of plumbing underneath
Right.
that we don't get exposed to. And the exciting part is you don't know how to be, you don't have to be a plumber anymore. I was just doing a webinar recently about vibe coding, which I've just started diving into, which is essentially coding in plain language.
Right.
So I don't need to know Python or any of those code languages
Right.
to build an app or to build a tool. I can build a tool by telling it what I want and then helping it to refine the tool just by telling it what I want and more specifically what I don't want.
Right.
That's one of the things that I've learned along the way, is that being very precise in your prompting as far as what you do not want it to output is just as important as what you want to get out of the tool.
Right.
Because that's the only way you're going to be able to narrow the focus that the algorithm and the API is using to get to the right information.
Right. Well, it is only going to be as good as what you feed it
Yeah.
and where it's pulling it from.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you one question, and I'm sure there are many people out there that will be with bated breath waiting to hear. Tell me the different platforms you use, AI platforms, and what you like about them.
Sure. Well,
Each one.
Sure. I've definitely spent the majority of my time lately on Claude. I've found the Anthropic platform to be probably the most robust and user-friendly that I've experienced so far for my needs.
Right.
So I'm not a creative. I fancy myself one in my spare time, and don't ask my art
We all like
directors.
to be.
Don't ask my art directors if they agree with that statement. But that is not part of my job set. So my job is about the research, strategic planning, and communication strategy. So tools like Claude allow me a lot of latitude to dig into topics, learn about them, begin to develop project outputs like journey maps or focus group reports. Even just starting a process of like, hey, I've got a new client. I need to learn everything I can know about widgets. Like, I don't know anything about it. Okay, give me a starting point. And all of a sudden, I know enough to be dangerous. And able to ask the right questions with the client.
Right.
The other platforms I use, I definitely started with ChatGPT and continue to use it. I use it more for informing what I put in Claude, though.
Yeah.
So it helps me to write prompts. It helps me to craft a way of phrasing things, or obviously I use it in my daily life. My wife is a big fan, like I said, and
I'm a big fan.
figuring out dinner.
My favorite platform.
Yeah. And there's more to it, like building custom GPTs that I have experimented with that have a lot of value.
Yeah.
Other platforms I use, Gemini from Google is one that I think has a lot of promise from a deep research standpoint, and being able to dig into a lot more depth on a topic. It's tied in with all the Google products.
Right.
So being able to tap into the Google APIs and pull the data, that wealth of data that business has built up over decades
Right.
in the market. And then I'll experiment, and I know I need to know what my team is using.
Right.
So experimenting with Midjourney or Seed Dance,
Right.
figuring out what Nana Banana can do for my creative team, other than having an awesome name, is critical for me to be able to not only set up my team for success and be able to do the things that they need to do, but also prepare my client for the opportunities that are available. Our recent project with a economic development organization to build their new website, we've leaned heavily into using Claude to help us with content planning, strategy, site mapping, and even a little bit of wireframing for websites. But then pairing that with other tools. We're not using them in silos. We're using them in connection with one another. So my UX lead is using that content to inform her use of Figma, and how Figma can help her explore the best way to develop a more robust and more thoughtful sitemap, and develop the wireframes for those pages, and then ultimately building some design starting points for her.
Right.
So me being able to understand how all those tools are being used by other people is important. So I would say anybody who's in a leadership role or an account side role, strategy role, you kind of got to know it all.
Right.
You got to at least know enough to be dangerous, like I said. Otherwise, you're going to miss opportunities. But the thing is, you don't need to know how everything works and how to use everything. I don't know how to use Midjourney.
Right.
I know what it can do. I've tried it.
Right.
I'm certainly not a power user. We have people that are power users in the agency, and I know who those people are.
You can go to
and I can go to them.
Right.
And the web has a wealth of information to help people learn these tools. It's something that you can do in your spare time, and be able to apply what you learn to your daily job.
Right.
So I would say to go back to your question, I'm definitely a Claude guy. But I'm also exploring how it applies across different LLMs like Gemini, and I haven't really tried Grok too much, but I have tried it a little bit with coding, and it's obviously very strong there. But just given my role, tools like Claude, Gemini, ChatGPT are kind of my go-to foundational bits.
Their bed is suited for what you're doing.
Right. As long as they're set up right. That's the other thing that is, as I think I've talked to you about.
But
before,
the user
has to set it up.
Has to know it.
And has to know what it's capable of and what it can be connected to.
Right.
It itself in a silo is going to have some limitations.
Right.
It's how you apply it and how you use it that you will reap the benefits.
Right. Well, I have to tell you, you excite me. I have always loved advertising and marketing my whole life. I've always been excited about the next thing, and this was the next thing like a year ago. But we're all just getting up to speed and learning it. And I think for the most part, embracing it, people really, I think, do see great value in it. And I do think, we could have a whole nother episode one day on the fear that is out there. But I think just like anything, in the end, it's going to be something that we manage, and we will be excited at the results and the things that we can accomplish in a much shorter time with much more clarity that will benefit our clients and drive their businesses, which is the number one reason we exist.
Exactly.
Well, I'm so glad to have you, Chris. This was
Thank you
really
so much.
great. Let's plan to do it again.
Absolutely.
You delve a little bit further into some of the things you're building, and maybe we break some of that down next time.
Absolutely. Sounds
All right.
great.
Well, thank you for coming to Smart Takes.
Thanks, Jen.
See you soon.